Well, back from my big public land trip out in Montana and North Dakota, but I haven't posted an update from the North Dakota hunt yet. You guys saw how Montana went, but after I wrapped up that, 4 or 5 days, they're headed east to North Dakota to meet up with my buddy Furter. So, want to give you a really quick update on what happened there. And the really short version of the story is that it was kind of a disappointment. The longer version of the story is that Furter was there 3 days before me, and he hunted a handful of spots that we had scouted out that we kind of thought about and thought through would be a good place to start based off the scouting and shed hunting that we did this past spring. Saw a lot of sign, found a decent number of sheds. We had high hopes for the area. It's this river bottom ground, kind of high buttes and hills up above it. But down in those bottoms, there seemed to be a lot of whitetail activity. So Josh headed in there, started hunting some spots where he could see a long ways, kind of observe and hopefully learn. Unfortunately, over the course of his 3.5 days of doing that, he wasn't seeing much at all. Saw some does, a couple young bucks, but nothing of any real interest. So when I showed up, it was back to scouting again. I sat on top of these big hills one evening and one morning, glassed this huge river bottom, could see probably a mile in either direction, maybe even more. And same thing for me, just a few does, a few young bucks. So on Friday, last Friday I think it was, I was sitting there thinking, what are we doing here? Like, okay, we've put in about 5 days worth of time. There's not been a single mature buck, not a single shooter seen yet. Very few deer in general. Are we just wasting our time? We've only got 2 more days left, and do we really want to spend that time just doing the same thing that has not been working yet? So I decided that we needed to call an audible. We needed to switch things up and find something new that gave us some hope to maybe pull out something at the last second. So I'd seen some other public land on the maps north of there a couple hours that had always looked good to me in the past. Big country, lots of crop fields on the adjacent private land, even some stuff on the public, but lots of great cover along this other river bottom too. So I proposed to Josh, what if we pull up camp, haul up there, and take an evening and a morning of scouting and then get 2 hunts in, but 2 hunts that hopefully are based off of real intel that shows that there's actually deer there. Kind of risky, going into a brand new area, never having seen it before, especially with the fact that we were only going to have about 2 days to try to make something happen, but decided to swing for the fences, and that's what we did. So headed out there that first night, me and Josh split up, drove around all this different ground, covered a ton of terrain, trying to see where other hunters were and where deer were, and got lucky, and I actually got eyes on a field on public land that was pretty well loaded with deer early too. They were out there a couple hours before dark. Lots of bucks, multiple bucks that maybe would definitely be shooters for Josh, possibly shooters for me. So that was exciting. The next day we went in, scouted another section, hung stands for the next morning, and then that evening headed to the spot where I'd seen those deer. I had Josh go set up on the inside corner of this field where I'd seen all these bucks come out. I wanted him to get a shot first if possible, simply because I'd already killed the deer. So I had him go in that direction. I went to the other side of the field and just kind of tucked up in some tall grass and bushes. There weren't any other trees. It seemed like some kind of cover crop had been planted in this field, and maybe turnips or radishes or something was just starting to come out. That's kind of what it looked like to me. And the deer were just hammering it. So we got set up, and the basic gist of things was that a lot of deer came out. We saw a lot of bucks, and Josh had a couple close calls, including one that came out at like 45, couldn't get a shot through some thick stuff. And then when he came out into the open, it was more like 50, 60 yards. A nice 3-year-old or older buck. So that was exciting. Had another nice buck come out at last light, but again, too far out of range. And that was kind of the story of the evening. We saw a bunch of deer. Josh had those close calls, and that was that. The next morning, we didn't see anything at all. So, I would say that our North Dakota hunt obviously was a disappointment on the front end, but I think that we learned something there, and I feel good about having trusted my gut on that decision to pull up camp and totally switch things up and try to get some real information that we could use, because it came this close to working. I mean, if that deer had been 10 yards closer, Josh could have killed that buck. It would have been an amazing, happy ending, all based off the willingness to take that risk and try to actually find deer. There's no point hunting, especially in these open areas like this. These western whitetails in relatively open country, they're visible. If you're not seeing the deer that you want to hunt, there's a high chance that they're just not there. And in this case, there had been some other hunting pressure in the first area. and the low deer numbers that we were observing, it told me, this isn't going to be where it's going to happen. So we found this new section, and it really was almost a game changer. So finding that early season pattern is what we were looking for. There we had it. We found a food source that obviously wasn't getting hunted. We had the right wind to sneak in there. We were able to get out there, and it could have happened. So that was the North Dakota hunt. It was cool that it almost came together, and now you learn from it, move on, and next year if we ever go back to North Dakota, now we've got a new spot that we can definitely put some more time into. So that's where it's at now. So later this week, I'm heading for Montana again to chase elk, and then after that, it's back to whitetails in Michigan, and I cannot wait for that. Lots more to come there. I did a little bit of work on one of my Michigan properties last week. Been monitoring trail cameras, and I've got all sorts of updates that I'll be sharing in the coming weeks as we head towards that October 1st opener. So until next time, make sure you hit and subscribe to stay up on all those updates. We'll be getting a lot more videos, at least weekly, if not more videos, continuing on all the way through the season. So stay tuned, and if you're hunting, good luck.